Okay, well, welcome everybody. If you don't know me, my name's Mari Coyle. I'm your Director of Wine here at ONEHOPE, and I wanted to welcome you tonight to Rosé All May. I always say this at every start to our online tastings, our virtual tastings, Grape to Glass, each month, but I am passionate about the wines that I'm about to show you and really excited to taste these with you tonight. We're going to have a lot of fun. I will have a recording of this presentation available in VAU for those of you who are just joining, and I would love to hear from you in the chat box. So if you have a question, whatever it is, I'm going to open my chat box and I can answer those questions as I come to a little break in the presentation. So for any of you just joining, welcome to Rosé All May. Fun to have all of you on tonight, and thanks for making time. I know it is a very busy month for many of us, and things are really just getting kicked off. May is typically a really big month. People want to get out and they want to host parties and they want to enjoy spring, so I know there's a lot happening. So I just wanted to start off by talking about rosé, and we're just going to dive right on into this cool fact that I learned last week. I shared it on my Facebook Live if you guys join me at 10:30 on Tuesday mornings for Facebook Live. But we're talking about rosé, and it's like everybody has seen that rosé has gotten so popular, right? Everyone loves rosé. It's just all the rage. It's everywhere. There's a million different kinds. I mean, we have 5 rosés in our portfolio alone. And rosé is just the thing, right? It's delicious, it's easy, it's exactly what we're all wanting, and why we're here tonight is to just celebrate this type of wine and learn more about it. But I had never really put it together before. In all the time that I'd spent studying winemaking and the history of winemaking, rosé was actually the first wine that we ever made in civilization. So dating back to the 15th, 16th century, when people started making wine, you saw what like Lucille Ball does, where she stomps the grapes. Well, they were doing that. They didn't have the equipment that we have in modern winemaking. And so they were actually taking the red grapes and stomping them. And when they were stomping them, this pink juice was coming out, right? Because the pink is from the skins. That little bit of skin contact underneath their feet was actually kind of making this wine blush, or giving it this pink color. And that's what they fermented, and that's what they enjoyed. And in Egypt and throughout Greece, all civilizations were enjoying rosé, if you can believe it. That was the first wine that was ever made. For centuries, this wine was made and enjoyed. And it really enhanced conversation. The Phoenicians used wine to, enhance conversation at their parties at a level of sophistication. They would invite intellectuals to start talking about changing the world. Not much different than what we're doing here, right? We're changing the world with our wines, and we're using wine to be able to do that. So really kind of cool how we come back full circle here today. Now, in the 17th century, that's when some Europeans said, okay, I would like a more nourishing wine, and that's what they called it. They wanted more nourishment. They wanted a bigger wine. They wanted red wine, and that's when winemaking techniques actually started developing to create red wines, white wines, and rosé. So for us here in the United States, besides white zin, rosé is sort of a relatively new phenomenon because we didn't have all the options that we have for so many years. It just kind of came back into trend that people wanted, and for good reason, I think. So kind of a cool tidbit just about how rosé plays a part in history, and here we are enjoying it today. It's really pretty cool. So I talked a little bit about rosé winemaking, which ties into the whole history of winemaking and how civilizations really developed and cultivated this art to the science of wine. And here what we do is we start with red grapes. And I want to make a special note that rosé can be made from any red grape, any red grape. So we've got a rosé of Barbera. We have rosé made of Grenache, that's from Provence. We have rosé made of Pinot Noir in our sparkling rosé from the North Coast. we have an entire selection of different rosé wines made from different red grapes. And white zin is actually rosé. It's just rosé made from Zinfandel, and oftentimes sweetened up a bit because Zinfandel can ripen so fully, you get kind of a sweeter expression there. So white zin really is rosé, and we've kind of taken it to be a little drier, a little less sweet now. Rosé is typically kind of crisp and refreshing, and that's how we're enjoying it. Last year, when I presented rosé, we did not have the Provence rosé yet, but we talked about rosé's emergence into the United States being sort of the Gatorade of the Hamptons. And I loved that little fact that I found because, you know, a lot of times we're importing wines from Europe. They go directly to the East Coast, where so many of you guys are located, and you get a lot of imports, right? So that's kind of what hit. So rosé hit there from Provence, Provence being the largest rosé producing region in France, and rosé hit, and it was like, what just happened? This is so refreshing and so great. And it was a rosé of Provence. So any red grape here can make rosé. So typically, we're letting those skins in contact with the juice for several hours or a few days, and that's what produces the color. Because if you remember, all grapes have clear juice, white grapes, red grapes, except for two, the Alicante Bouschet and the Ruby Red. And those two actually have red juice, but everything else gets its color from the skins and the flavor from the skins, which is why these wines are so expressive in strawberry and watermelon. All that comes from the skins, the flavor that's actually in the skins and in the different unique grapes itself. So we've got that pink juice crushed similarly to, you know, the 15th century, only using modern day winemaking equipment. So we just squeeze this very gently, and we get our fermentation. And that fermentation goes from sugar to wine, so sugar to alcohol, using a yeast fermentation. And then we blend and the wine is bottled. There isn't a lot of aging. There isn't a lot of oak influence. The wine is meant to be very expressive with pink color, subtle texture, and bright aromas. And when I say subtle texture, that texture comes from that contact on the skins, which of course have a little bit of tannin and a really rich expression. So these wines can be a little bit more substantial, maybe in nature, than a white wine. So I always love making rosé. It's just the most beautiful wine to make. And of all wines that we encourage customers to be so playful about, it actually takes a lot of winemaking science to dial in the right color. And we all get, you know, really excited about getting the right color of pink. And you'll notice a wide range of colors of rosé. When you go to the store, you'll see French rosé that is what we call onion skin. It's actually almost white, and that's called rosé. And then they vary all the way through like salmon color to like a very deep dark pink, much like what you're seeing on the screen here. So there's no right or wrong. There's just a lot of different winemaking styles that are used. So a couple different methods that we use to make rosé, which I thought you guys might like to hear about because they really kind of help you determine what kind of color you have in the wine. If it's a dark rosé, I'm just gonna hold these two up for tonight. So I've got our California rosé and our Provence rosé, and look at the differences in those colors. I mean, that's pretty incredible, right? Both great wines made with, you know, awesome practices and modern day winemaking techniques, but really different colors. And so the saignée is actually a process where the grapes are crushed and then the wine, it bleeds, so that hence the name saignée is actually from bleeding, the origin of the word. It bleeds off this pink juice, and that's what's fermented. In direct to press, which is typically what happens in France and why they get usually lighter colors, is this is when grapes are actually immediately put in the press and squeezed to the desired color and flavor. So both methods are actually used interchangeably throughout different wineries to then ferment, blend, and bottle. And that's how we do it. So I want to take a moment before we dive into these wines, because I'm dying to taste these, and talk about rosé season. So fresh is always best. If you're going to enjoy rosé, get the new vintage. You know, grab what's out there. We release our rosés typically in the spring when they're ready. So this year we're releasing the 2017. This is what I have here. 2017 rosé. The 2017 Provence is on its way. We just bottled the 2017 Sonoma Rosé. And I really encourage you to enjoy those wines throughout the year, because next year we bring more. And this wine is one that's really meant to enjoy fresh. That isn't to say that I haven't had a couple wines rosés that have aged, that I've picked up and tasted and didn't enjoy. But you really want to get the fresh aromas. That's what the wine is all about, is this intense aroma. So moving right along here, I am going to go ahead and open up a couple of these wines and we'll talk about it. I also wanted, before my rosé melts, to let you guys know that today, for the first time, I made frosé. So this is my frosé. I don't know why. I'd heard about it a million times, but I just had never made it. And it was actually super easy. And we have a recipe on the blog. And of course, we have frosé set that we have been selling. But it was really easy. And I used one of my friend's limoncellos that she made, and added that, and added some ice, extra ice cubes, and the California rosé. And it's amazing. It's really, really good. And really refreshing. So I could definitely see having that maybe at like my Memorial Day barbecue or something like that. Just whip up some frosé, keep it cold, and keep the kids out of the drinks. So that's pretty tempting, a little slushy right there. So let's go ahead and pour some of our California rosé. This is easy to open because we've got our screw cap, which really preserves the freshness. So this is an amazing wine and great example of how great the screw cap actually is, because we're able to keep it fresh with the screw cap. And we've talked a little bit about screw caps in the past, but I just want to reiterate that, you know, there's no cork taint, so there's no problems with the cork, you know, creating an off odor or aroma. And the screw cap actually does really keep the wines fresher for longer. So when you have really fruit intense wines, this is a great, great, great closure. I love the screw cap closure. So didn't have to show you how to open that one. I just peeled that right open. And then I actually, you know, I made some frosé, but I wanted to have this out to show you, because we have this new chiller stick that I tested. And I guess we are bringing them in next week. So I'm just giving you a preview of this really cool chiller stick. It actually goes in the freezer, and then you can, this part goes in the freezer and stays really cold. And then you just kind of screw in this top piece, which allows you to pour the wine easily, right? It's no problem. Just kept my wine chilled while I was talking to you guys, just like that. So pretty cool. I wanted to use that tonight because I knew I had my rosé out here. But a couple things too is, what type of glass should I use? So for rosé, anything goes. I've got my little stemless that I oftentimes use, especially when we're talking about tasting wine and swirling wine. But I also really like small little Italian water glasses for rosé. I'll show you these. They're just really easy, and they're easy to find. They're inexpensive. They don't break. They're really durable, so they're good for parties, or if you're having a lot of hosting parties, having a lot of people over and you don't have all those stems, and then to clean all those stems can be a little overwhelming sometimes. So you could use that. I've also got, this is my other favorite for rosé. It's just a little cup from IKEA. But I'll show you what the wine looks like in there. Kind of fun, just like a little stemless option. This is kind of when I'm enjoying wine, but I'm not actually swirling it, and you know, I'm just kind of like barbecuing and enjoying wine. So a few options there. And then of course this guy for the rosé, a little bit bigger tumbler, you could put fresh fruit in there, like fresh strawberries or a slice of melon or something like that. So in terms of temperature, I told you that I had, this wine was at room temperature and I stuck this chiller stick in it. And rosé can actually be served at any temperature you choose. If you want to serve it at white wine, you know, refrigerator temperature, that's great. I like my rosé a little bit warmer. I like it closer to, you know, I'll say 60 degrees, 64 degrees maybe, where it's not warm, but I like to have it a little bit warmer because you get more aromas and it just does have that bigger texture closer to red wine. So I prefer to serve my rosé at room temperature, and then I know it sounds crazy, but if somebody complains, they can add an ice cube, right? If they want it colder. Or Lisa just went, oh my God. Or you can make rosé, right? So I just want to tell you that this is a wine that you don't have to take too seriously. It's really fun. You can serve it at any temperature, and I prefer mine to be a little bit more on the room temperature side. So let's go ahead and swirl this wine. If you have a glass that you can swirl in, I can see you guys swirling. It's the most beautiful wine to swirl. I love, love, love this. And my husband loves rosé too, right? Like real men drink pink, I think. It's like real men eat quiche. So then when we're talking about swirling, we're really elevating these aromas, making them kind of pop out of the glass so that we can stick our nose in there and actually smell what we have to offer, which is most of our tasting experience. And especially with an aromatic white or rosé, there's so much going on in the aromas that actually continues while you're tasting the wine. So this is just so pretty. And I think if I had to pick like two characteristics to just talk about all rosé, I would say strawberries and watermelon, because almost every rosé that I taste is strawberries and watermelon at some point. Some just have more melon, or even more toward this Tuscan melon, which is the cantaloupe that you see up there. And then some have these nuances of orange peel or tangerine, or that citrus that really pushes more toward orange, ripe orange, and a little bit of cherry. And it's kind of fun too to think about rosé in this way, that, you know, rosé is made from red grapes. So when you have a Cabernet or a Merlot or a Pinot Noir, you know, a lot of times you have these similar descriptors like cherry and strawberry, because those red fruits are kind of from these red grapes and the skins. But it's rare, or almost never, except in rosé, that you can combine that with some white wine characteristics like orange and tangerine and watermelon, right? We don't see those typically in red wine. So rosé is truly this ambrosia of different fruit combinations that's just really enticing and delicious. So after you swirl and you really get the aromas and go, wow, I really like this wine. It's delicious. That's what I'm saying right now. And it's got so much really pretty, I get that orange peel, like not just the fresh orange, but that orange peel. It's really, really aromatic. And then we can sip, the moment you've all been waiting for. Now I usually make you like wait to sip until like the whole thing's almost over. So we're early, that's good. Wow. So what do you get when you taste this wine that's unique or different? To me, I get just this really nice mouth coat. So it's a little bit more weighted and heavier than a white wine, especially like a Sauvignon Blanc. But it's also got this like crisp acidity and really fresh fruit character. It's almost like I'm biting into a fresh strawberry. When you have that acidity and that sweetness and that perfect ripened strawberry, that's what this reminds me of. it's really, really, really delicious. I love this. And I've got the 2017, and I recently also tasted the 2016. Both are amazing. So it's really, really, really a great rosé. So what else can you do with the rosé, and what could you pair this one with? And then we'll talk about the Provence rosé a little bit. Well, we've got strawberry popcorn tonight. We have been getting really creative with our popcorn pairings, and so has everybody else. I've been seeing so many cool popcorns out on the marketplace. But something super easy to do is, you can pop your own popcorn, or you can go to Popcornopolis. I'll do a little shout out for Tracy's friend at Popcornopolis if you're in Colorado. He's amazing. Or, you can make your own. So you can do it easy though. Like, you don't need a popcorn maker or to use the microwave or anything. You could just buy a bag of kettle corn or popcorn, because they have these now everywhere, and you can add your toppings. So so what I did tonight is I actually just bought some kettle corn, and then I used the dehydrated strawberries. So you can get these at Trader Joe's. You can get them online. You can buy them in a lot of different stores. They're the dehydrated, not the dried fruit, but the dehydrated fruit. And you can use that dehydrated fruit, and then you basically just mash it into a fine powder, and voila, sprinkle it on everything. Sprinkle it on your popcorn, and now you have a cool flavor, and your popcorn is pink. I don't know if you can see mine, but your popcorn is pink, which is really fun too. So really cheap, really easy way to, suggest to your hosts that doesn't cost a lot of money. I know we get into wine and cheese pairings, and they do get expensive, right? I mean, a lot of these cheeses that I love are pretty expensive, and to put a whole cheese board together can be costly, and not everybody's up for that every time they want to enjoy wine. So this is a good alternative. You can serve it up in, a big bowl or little tiny, cups or dishes or single servings, however you like. But I think it's a really great pairing. And again, just plays on that flavor of strawberry. One of the main flavors. You can't go wrong with this popcorn with any of our wines. And then does anybody have a memory of tasting a watermelon Jolly Rancher? Has anybody tasted watermelon Jolly Ranchers? Yeah. Super good, right? So you can get creative with those too. You can actually use a watermelon Jolly Rancher, and you can, have that out as a candy. You can also, really try and whip up your chef skills and do something exciting, like distill it down into a sauce and make a simple syrup or a sauce from the watermelon Jolly Rancher, like a glaze. So there are tons of really fun ways that you can bring out these flavors. And of course, fresh fruit is always amazing. And then hard cheeses, I think, are really good with rosé too. So I'm going to take a look in the chat box real quick and see if I had some questions. Everybody is getting really excited, and they've got a cheesecake and wine pairing this weekend. Any thoughts on what cheesecake you'd serve next to the Côte de Provence? Ooh, that sounds good. Well, I like lemon, so I also really like lemon flavors with rosé. They really bring out a lot of the depth and complexity in the rosé with the red skins, just bringing that out. So I also love lemon. So anything with citrus or lemon, I think, is a great combo. And that reminds me that the other night I was at a friend's house, and she had I think it was called limon. It was a Lay's potato chip that was called limon. And, but it really didn't taste like lime. It really tasted like lemon. And I was like, these would also be amazing for hosting. So, that potato chip with a little citrus zest. I mean, you could serve that with the Sauvignon Blanc. You could serve that with the rosé. You could do all kinds of things. And it was just that little bite that you need, that little nosh that you need to just have a really fun tasting, enjoy a little food, but not get too heavy with the foods. So what type of red grapes are used in our core rosé? So this is a Barbera rosé made from Barbera grapes. All right. Now let's open up the Côte de Provence rosé. I'm going to show you a little tip here on opening wines. I like to show this to you guys each time because we have new CEOs on the call. And so you have your handy dandy wine opener and you've got your blade right here. And if you've ever wondered what that was for and why you can't take it on an airplane, here's why. It's made for this. So what I like to do is take this part right here underneath the, just underneath this lip of the bottle. The glass bottle usually has a little indent right here. And I like to put my knife right under there and just kind of secure it there. And then go ahead and wrap it around using that lip of the bottle to make a perfectly clean cut. And then you can just peel it off. And there it is. Okay. So that's the first part. And then, now in Provence, they're still using corks a lot, but we do see some screw caps. We are using a cork in Provence just because it's a great closure for the type of wine that they make there, which is made primarily of Grenache. So the grapes that are made in our Provence rosé are primarily Grenache. There's a little bit of Cinsault in there too. And this is from the world-renowned region of Provence, which is a region in France, primarily producing rosé. There they are. Everybody is so excited to get their hot little hands on this wine. Look at this. So, and you can see the color. Now, this is very traditional color for French rosés. And like I said, you can actually even see lighter in color rosés that are what we call onion skin. They're just a very sheer, slightly pink wine. So I'm going to go ahead and pour this, and we can compare the two. This is from our Reserve collection from France, which, you know, we take wines from around the world. Our winemaking team works with winemakers throughout the world to create wines and bottle ONEHOPE wines in the country of origin. So these are actually grapes from France, which are fermented in France, and the final blend is approved by our winemaking team and bottled in France. The whole box itself is shipped over, just like you see it here, okay? So that's how we produce our international collection. We have taken to date top regions around the world and brought wines to make local impact, which I think is maybe the coolest thing on the planet, really, that we can do this with so many creative winemaking teams around the world. And we're talking about Prosecco from Italy. We're talking about Pinot Grigio from the Veneto region, which is just, you know, the Pinot Grigio capital of the world. And we've got Malbec from Argentina and our rosé from Côte de Provence in Provence, France. So very cool addition to our portfolio. We brought this in last year, and it's really an exciting addition, and people have been loving it. So let's go ahead and swirl this one in our glass. Now, I have this, you have to remember, I have this as room temperature. So I haven't chilled mine. It's room temperature. It's a little bit colder because I store my wines in a cool area in my house. If you have an area in your house that stays cooler than another, that's a great place for your wine. Typically inside, like internal closets, so closets that aren't bordering with outside walls that vary in temperature. If you have a pantry, a laundry room, if you've got a place downstairs that just typically tends to stay cooler, those are great places to store your wine. And I'm sure you guys have all had your family going, what are all these wine boxes in our living room from time to time? I know I have. So let's go ahead and smell this one. This is really complex. There is a lot of citrus components here, and that melon, which is not screaming watermelon to me, it's a little bit more of that riper sort of Tuscan melon. And it's interesting because you think riper, in my brain almost thinks darker in color. But the techniques that are used in France are very different. Like I said, they go directly to press, and then they actually keep the wine, the juice itself, very cold for a long time. And by doing that, actually the sediment at the bottom of the tank starts creating aromas. So it starts producing these characteristics that then will ferment and create our fermentation bouquet. And that is how they get these intense aromas that are very, very complex. So just a kind of cool little winemaking fact for you. But it also is a lot of strawberry. There's even a little bit of kind of pine to it, which I love in a Grenache-based rosé. And all these flavors, remember, are not added to the wine. These are flavors that are naturally occurring in the grape. And that's why we have so many different grapes to make so many different types of wine, is that each one has its own flavor profile that comes out in the fresh fruit when we harvest it. And then when we add our fermentation techniques and our winemaking, we create a wine that is suddenly very unique and very complex and very different from another one. All right, so we smelled this rosé, we swirled it, we smelled it, now let's sip it. Delicious. I love this wine. I know a lot of you do too. And I really think that part of it is the region that it comes from, the type of grapes that it comes from, but also the winemaking techniques that make this so unique. And it really has a lot of complexity. It's very weighted, and it can stand up to a lot of different foods. So I don't want to just say that these fun, fruit characteristics are the only pairings, because when we start talking about wines like this, the Provence Rosé, we start talking about really fun and exciting food pairings like pork and lamb and grilled foods. So grilled meats, are perfect for rosé. I love ribs with rosé even. So if you have kind of a light dry rub on your ribs, and they're not the big saucy spicy ones, then you could actually pull that off really well. Ham sandwiches, ham quiche. Ham is a great pairing for rosé. It's salty, and this wine really works well with that salt because it's really got that big lush mouthfeel. So there is just so many different things that you could do with rosé in terms of pairings. It's one of my go-tos when I go to a restaurant and I'm ordering a wine. I think, oh, what the heck, I'll have rosé, because if they've got a great rosé on the menu, it's going to go with almost anything that I order. So there's just a lot here that you can play with. But the differences, I think, in the two wines are that our California rosé is a little bit more fruity. And that's really classic about American wines. They tend to be more fruit forward than the European counterparts. And that's the winemaking style, the culture, and the grapes themselves. So I think that, our California rosé has so much fruit. That's where I think it's a good option for making your rosé, because you really get a lot of fruit flavor. And with that limoncello and anything else that you wanted to add to that blended fun cocktail mix, you don't overpower the wine itself. The Provence Rosé is very complex, but almost a little bit more delicate in the respect that I wouldn't think it would make as good of a wine cocktail or rosé, because it's really just delicate and rich, and a lot of what's so wonderful about it is the mouthfeel and the way that it sits on your palate, and it's kind of like this delicate sort of silky wine. And so I like it just as it is. That's my personal take. Any other comments in the chat box about the two wines or the comparison, or any kind of fun ideas that you have for hosting? We talked a little bit about cheesecake too, and I mentioned lemon. Lemon bars are one of my favorite pairings with rosé, because you can do them at any time of day. You could serve a lemon bar at brunch. You could do it at lunch. You can have it, you know, anytime in the evening. So lemon bars are super easy and delicious. There's a lot of, you know, different fruits, different cheeses we talked about, candy, getting creative with some of these things. And the key here is that, you know, when you're thinking about hosting and thinking about doing something different and creative and fun, it doesn't have to be expensive, right? It can be as inexpensive as our strawberry popcorn. So that's a pretty easy one, huh? And you could take any of these flavors if you found a dehydrated cherry, for instance, and you could make cherry popcorn too, and that would probably be delicious. You could also, you know, have maybe like a little cookie or a cracker. I'm thinking of like a shortbread cookie, and, you know, top that with like a little frosting, and then crunch up a watermelon Jolly Rancher on it and have that as like a palate, you know, teaser for the rosé. So many different creative ways that you can really use the rosé and pear. So I'm going to go here to some of the keywords and phrases that we use today. We talk about saignée. Some people ask about the different methods of rosé. So saignée, this is the process of bleeding the juice from the red grape must for desired color and flavor. Direct to press is the French method, which is often used throughout the world, but very, very French in nature. They love using direct to press, and this is the process of squeezing the juice itself and squeezing the juice directly to the press. And I think I had an error on this one, so I apologize. I'll correct that in my keywords. The must is what we talked about in our winemaking slide, which is what actually is the result after you destem and crush the red grapes. So if you're destemming and crushing them, you have skin, seeds, and juice, and that's called the must, and that would be used in the saignée method. We've talked a little bit about Provence, which is where our Provence rosé is from. That's a geographical region in southeast France. And when we're thinking about these sub-regions and sub-AVAs, you can think about it like this. If this is France, then we've got this is Provence, right? Just like when we have California, and then we have the Napa Valley. So every time you have a sub-AVA or an American viticultural area, I like to use these nesting dolls to describe that it's a little bit more rare and a little bit more special, that you have a special place in the world where this wine is coming from that's geographically defined. So that's a really special place, and I hope to go there someday. And we have dry. So we talked about rosé. We talked about white Zinfandel being pretty sweet, new rosés coming out being really dry, and dry is absent of sugar. So dry would be crisp and refreshing and without sugar. Off dry is when there's a slight perception of sweetness or fruit. I call our California rosé off dry because there's still some sweetness of fruit there. And so I wouldn't call it sweet, but I call it off dry. And white Zinfandel, which we talked about, which is just rosé made from Zinfandel grapes. So pretty cool. Where is the core rosé from in California? Our California core rosé is from regions throughout the California, primarily the northern interior and some of the coastal regions. We like to get these grapes really ripe, so we grow them in some of the warmer growing regions where we can really get full flavor and development. And typically we're picking these grapes at slightly lower sugar levels so that we don't end up having, you know, overt alcohol. We want these wines to stay balanced and be sessionable and really enjoyable. That's how they're supposed to be. Tracy just had the 2017 rosé. She's not normally a rosé fan, but this might be her new fave wine. Wow. Awesome, Tracy. Where are you? I can't see you. Tracy fell in love with a new wine. Oh, she's not on her video. Okay. All right. So many people not letting me see their faces. Darn it. I like your faces. Well, that's amazing. I'm glad you guys enjoyed the rosé. And I wanted also to talk about our partner spotlight here. So this is a really special cause for so many of us, but you know, helping to prevent ovarian cancer is what our rosés have been doing for a long time now, since the first rosé at ONEHOPE, which was about 3 years ago. And what I want to point out here is our reserve collection is always a little bit more expensive, but it makes a bigger impact. So this is a great way to, you know, communicate about our wines. If somebody isn't sure if they want to have a rosé in their tasting or not, or really any reserve in their tasting, every bottle of our core California rosé educates 50 women on their risks and symptoms of ovarian cancer, which is oftentimes a silent killer because people don't recognize or not aware of those symptoms. And every bottle of, are you ready for this? The Côte de Provence rosé educates 100 women, double the women impacted by a single bottle, with a very small price difference, if you ask me, in terms of impact that is made. So this Côte de Provence is, you know, really amazing. And I just wanted to point out again how cool it is that part of our company is creating these international wines that then make a local impact. That's really how we can change the world together. So I'm so glad that you guys have enjoyed this tasting and been here with me. I have heard a lot of your feedback and your comments and suggestions, and I love all of them. There isn't one that I don't love. And one of them was like, maybe we can make this a little bit less time than an hour. An hour is a long time. So just take note, 15 minutes early today, guys. 15 minutes early. Gina, I'll have to email you about a Central Coast rosé. I don't have that one, so I'll have to figure out where you might have tasted a Central Coast rosé. And I want to ask for any last questions. Oh, the Central Coast rosé, of course. We did have it last year, and we don't have it this year. I'm sorry to say. But we have an amazing Sonoma rosé that's coming out very soon. We just bottled that, and a whole bunch of really great wines that we are about to launch this summer. So really excited to kick off the summer season with you guys. If your mom's out there, hang on for 100 Days of May and enjoy some rosé or frosé for the entire month of May. I want to thank you again for uncorking change with me this evening. It's always fun to be part of this community, and I just love being here with you guys on Tuesdays. Please enjoy our wines responsibly and come to the next tasting, which is June 19th, where we're going to do aromatic whites. And if you guys saw the vine today, we have 3 new aromatic whites, and I love all of them. They are so good. So we've got a new Muscat, we've got new Gewürztraminer, we have a new Riesling, and these are all from these sub-AVAs, right? So from California, we've gone to Monterey, we've gone to smaller AVAs to get more distinctive wines and more expressive varietals. And so we're launching those, and I think you guys are gonna love them. So thank you, everybody, and enjoy your evening with 15 minutes to spare. Get creative on some ways that you can inspire hosts to serve rosé or have a rosé party and make some creative, delicious treats that don't have to be super expensive, right? All right, cheers, everybody.